Alright everyone, they told me I could become anything, so I became Gandalf here. Sorry about that, I've got to readjust a little bit the recording setup, because of course now it's almost spring, and so the sun glares off of the other building, and angles right in the window. Anyway, we start out today talking about Biden's moment the other day, where it was clear, some kids screaming outside, it was clear that he was being puppeteered, and didn't even maybe himself know fucking what was going on. This has happened before, so let's just say it's not unprecedented, just so we're aware. First and foremost, though, there will be a pinned comment. If you're watching this on YouTube with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use, I am now making 2 alt-tech exclusives a day. The videos will be on there, but they will not be on YouTube. I'm doing this out of an abundance of understanding that after years and years of algorithmic manipulation of search results and related videos, YouTube has doubled down and it's now abusing virtually all independent content creators. Oddly enough, the channel has started growing more swiftly since I started doing this, so maybe it's the algorithms again, who knows. But something is desperately wrong with this particular situation. With Joe Biden, I mean. When you've got a situation where the president is giving a speech, the honkler in chief is giving a speech, openly says at the end, hey, I'd like to take questions if that's what I'm supposed to do, and then he just sits there for like 5 seconds, and then the stream ends. At the very least, let's look at this from the non-malevolent perspective first. Let's assume that this was just like an error or something. Does that not speak to a larger incompetence among Biden's staff and officials that, coordinate what Biden does? Because this could be a major problem. You don't want snafus. You don't want problems with regards to the president's ability to communicate. It's not a good idea. So that's at a bare minimum. At a bare minimum, the best case scenario is that this was just another piece of evidence of the incompetence of the Biden team. Like, remember when he and Kamala Harris made their first appearance together after she was chosen as running mate? You remember that, the very first time? And the sound system broke down, and the lights didn't turn on properly, and they were just sort of like on stage, like, what the fuck is going on? And it's Biden's like, do you surround yourself with people who don't know what they're doing? Don't answer that question. It's rhetorical, of course. We know that the answer is yes. The worst possible scenario is that this is not just Biden being out to lunch, but Biden being directly puppeteered. And that's unfortunately what I think we see here. He was obviously open to answering questions, but he hadn't been informed ahead of time, or he was, but he forgot, which is, I think, more likely, arguably, that he wasn't supposed to take questions. They don't want him to answer questions. Why wouldn't you want the dude that you think is he's such a great leader, he's got supposedly 60% approval, why wouldn't you want him to get up there and hog the limelight and ham it up for people a little bit? They don't really get to see that much of Joe Biden other than little bits of Zoom calls where usually he says like crazy shit, like he calls his opponents Neanderthals at this point. I'll be talking about that later. It's not quite as bad as it sounds, but it is still Biden being Biden. You would want them to be out there. You would want some exposure. I mean, even if it's just electronically and remotely because of coronavirus, at the very least, you want them to be out there to be consumed. That's the political standard bearer of your whole party. You want him to be visible. Unless you know that it's push polling and you know he's not really that popular and you don't have faith in his ability to communicate. That's the only reason that they would do this. Unfortunately, that's the case. Joe Biden's approval rating is not 60%. It's probably not that high within the Democratic Party. Joe Biden is not a good communicator. He was 10 years ago. He was fairly well spoken. He'd be in the top half at least, is able to get his point across. This stuff about him having a stutter that he has to suppress, that's funny because I can see dozens of hours of footage of Joe Biden speaking in the Senate and as vice president, and he doesn't actually appear to have any particular speaking impediment at all. Why is it that lately it became so much worse? Could it be due to cognitive decline? I fucking wonder. Yeah, that's the reason why. Again, when we talk about Biden, often we get sarcastic and we just say rhetorical things because there's nothing else to be said. Reality is stranger than fiction with the situation that we're in politically right now, where we're being led by a person with clear dementia, who's clearly not even in control of the goddamn country. Now, this goes to that question. Which one is worse? The idea of a person who's nuts, who's literally out to lunch having the nuclear codes, or the idea that a shadowy cabal of unelected individuals behind them is using that demented person like a puppet, and you don't even know who to hold accountable if shit hits the fan. I think that the latter's more concerning. Because at the very least, if you just chalk this up to, well, Biden's out to lunch, he forgets things, fucking, he's zonked out, he's a vegetable and stuff. There's people potentially who can corral him and pretend all hell, prevent all hell from breaking loose. That's possible. But if you've got a shadowy cabal that is not demented, is actually quite malevolent, and he's just the figurehead, he can't do anything about them because he's basically taking their orders. He's their subjugate. He's their pawn. And what I said, for the last year, is that Joe Biden is a steward. He's a figurehead. A Trojan horse, really. Not for Kamala. That might come about, and it probably will. Like, after a couple of years to say, okay, Joe, it's time to resign. Now we've got strong, empowered women to go bomb people with diversity and wreck more countries, and we've got her to basically rubber stamp what we're doing. The cabal is still in place. I don't think Kamala Harris calls the shots either. Something is desperately wrong with the situation. He should not be in the Oval Office. Just to be clear, he should not be there. People who would be classed by the founders as having lunacy, which significant dementia would have been classed under more broadly, were not eligible for elected office, generally speaking. Unless it was out in some faraway town on the edge of the 13 colonies and they decided to elect, the town hermit or something just as a joke because there's nothing really that needs to be governed. That's okay. We can overlook that. The president is not the ruler of a small town on the edge of the woods. It's supposedly the leader of the free world, and the dude is demented. And he keeps making fucking stupid mistakes, like again, calling people Neanderthals, not knowing whether he's supposed to take questions at the conference. Like, you're the president of the United States. Fucking take questions if you want to. Just say, oh, I'd like to take some questions. No, turn the feedback on. That's all he had to do. But you can see, and he did the old man thing there, where he's sort of just staring and didn't know what was going on. The lights were out behind his eyes in that moment. Just watch it for yourself. Link in the description. That's about all. Peace out.